Hey guys, so I didn't get the full 20 likes to do the in-depth deck profile, but I've had people messaging me about siding patterns and asking some general questions about the deck. So I figure some of you guys might have a regional coming up this weekend for the Phantom Nightmare season. So I'll go in a little more in-depth explanation on the list and sideboarding patterns a little bit. So DD Crow is a nice searchable wing beast to search off Rabina. I didn't need it, but it's nice to have to like ensure that you're going to win the game. Pretty much like once you're already set up. It also acts as like a pseudo fourth D shifter in a way. It obviously not as strong, but it can hit. It definitely can hit stuff. D shifter's obvious. The rest of the Flunder lineup is pretty standard. Call buys standard. Dark Ruler at 1 and evenly at 2. It seems a little weird. Originally, I've been at 3 evenly matched, but the synchro version of Snake Eyes has been a little more popular in my area, and usually their ending boards will be like Baron, Savage, Appaloosa, and double evenly doesn't like really stop that. So I want to have a little bit of a better chance to deal with like that type of board. So that's why I opted to just play one Dark Rule in their main board for now. I don't like this card in general. It's like it's a weird card. Like I don't think it's I don't know how to explain it. You need it, but don't need it. It's not a card you ever like. You never obviously never want to see multiples of Dark Ruler, but it doesn't hurt to see multiple copies evenly because evenly is like really strong against the every just about every matchup going second. But the combination of Dark Ruler and evenly to break boards is just really strong in general. What was it? 3 adventures, 3 maps standard, unexplored standard, 3 dollar standard. Extra, I just want a little bit more consistency with the deck because at the end of the day, the deck only really loses to itself. This card, I always side out going second though, for the most part. 3 prosperity, terraforming. Terraforming is weird. Like sometimes it works really well for me, and other times it's like it makes my hands worse. I opted to play it this time just because like it is searchable off thrust going second. That's like the main reason why I decided to keep it in for now. But I do think this and like Extrav are like the cuttable cards from the list. I personally think like everything else is needed. Double thrust was MVP for me for this event. Just the ability to search for like any card in your deck pretty much is just so strong. Especially when you're going to get hand trapped by the Snake Eye decks. So being able to set like a Featherstorm or Dreaming Town off a thrust is just really good. Double evilly for Board Breaker, Dreaming Town standard. I know a lot of lists may only opt to play 1 or even 0. I think that's kind of crazy. I think like part of the reason you play this deck is not only because of Shifter, but because of this card as well. So like you want to see this card, but you don't. So like if you notice, there's a lot of cards I'm playing as 2-ofs, and it's usually the cards that you only really need to resolve once for them to be effective, right? But obviously, consistent cards you want to max out on for the most part. But like cards like evenly, you want to see like evenly plus something else. Same thing with Featherstorm. You want to see Featherstorm plus your engine. Just like you only, it's also you have thrust in the deck as well. So like it's you basically have 4 copies of like all your normal spells and traps on top of these. For the sideboard, you have the 3 Ash, the 3 Cosmic, the extra Dark Ruler, the Feather Duster, Herald, Tactics, Slayer, Different Dimension Ground, Evenly, Featherstorm. I sided in the 3rd Featherstorm for going first. I always side the 3rd Evenly for when I go second. Different Dimension Ground usually goes in first against all the matchups that are graveyard reliant. Ultimate Slayer was a choice I made to help deal with the synchro version of Snake Eyes a little bit more. I that version can be a little bit annoying to deal with, but you don't want to like the issue of like just dark ruling their board. You can like dark ruler them, but you really need to also have like a playable hand on top of dark ruling them. With Ultimate Slayer, it's nice to be able to deal with just their Appaloosa, even one. Let's say they have the Baron Savage Apple board, right? If you Ultimate Slayer, dump to bounce the Appaloosa back to the extra deck, just to draw a card. You only have to deal with the 2 synchros at that point. Ultimate Slayer back a synchro is really strong too. So sometimes they might on an Appaloosa, but you want like the targets for it. It's hard to explain. I apologize if I'm really bad at explaining stuff in this video, but it's just ultimate. It's nice to also get rid of the problem off the board as well. But you do also side in the second Dark Ruler to deal with the synchro version of Snake Eyes a little bit more. Dark Ruler is also just effective against like all the heavy combo decks and the voiceless deck as well. Herald's mostly just for purely because people still want to play the deck. You can sideboard D-Shifter in the deck, so I can't blame people for choosing to still play that deck. But it's not as good as it used to be. But Noir with 5 materials is still a huge problem for this deck. So I opt to play the Herald Abyss just to like not deal with that too much. Herald Abyss also conveniently comes up and against the Centurion matchup too, so you don't get Calamity locked. Feather Duster. It's nice to be able to search Featherstorm off of Feather Duster in certain matchups. You want to. I also want a card off of Thrust. I can just generically search, just destroy back rows without committing a battle phase. There's 3 decks you generally struggle with. You struggle with most of the rescue. You struggle a little bit against Rescue Ace. Your Lab is probably your worst matchup, and then you struggle sometimes against the the Chimera deck. Every other matchup should be either 50-50 or relatively in your favor for the most part. So Feather Duster mostly comes in for like your bad matchups. Ash and Cosmic only really ever go in to the main deck against the decks that I side out D-Shifter and Crow against. So going to siding patterns a little bit from here. So let's say we're playing against Snake Eyes. Going first, it's really simple. This almost covers every matchup too, for the most part. Going first, we side in Tactics, we side in DGG, we side in the third Featherstorm, we take out Dark Ruler, take out Evenly, and take out the 2 Evenlies. You do this going first every time against almost every matchup. The exceptions are against matchups where like DDG or DDG or Featherstorm or like these 3 cards won't be effective against certain matchups. Like DDG is not good against Kashtira, right? Tactics, for the most part, you're still going to be siding Tactics against most matchups. I think the Runic matchups are probably the only matchup you don't side this in. So the matchups where you don't sideboard like these cards in, you're going to just go ahead and put Cosmic in for whatever slots you need. Because Cosmic's going to affect the matchups where you don't side these in. Now going first against a lot of matchups, or going, I'm sorry, not going first. Going, did I screw this up? Hold on. I did. Okay. So, obviously the 2 main variations of Snake Eyes are the Synchro version and the Fire King version. If you play against the Fire, you should almost never lose against the Fire King version of Snake Eyes with this deck, unless you brick. Like, evenly just destroys that deck. D-Shifter just destroys that deck. It's very hard to lose that matchup unless you brick. So against that matchup specifically, going second, I'll side in Evenly, 2 Ultimate Slayers, Tactics, and Duster. What I generally side out are the 2 Featherstorms, Extra, Call By, and Terraforming. I like keeping DD Crow in against this matchup because it can deal with the big Fire King monster sometimes. You can opt to keep DD Crow in if you want to, or keep Terraforming in. Either or is fine. But going second against the Synchro version of Snake Eyes, I sideboard a little bit different. Well, not a little bit differently. The only difference I really make for going second is I side in the second copy of Dark Ruler to help deal with the board. If they make their like really good end board, you want to like maximize ways to deal with the end board. Hand traps aren't really going to affect that matchup. they're also going to be siding in against more talents against you. So someone asked me why. Someone asked me why I hold Shifter for main phase 1. So specifically for game 1, you want to see what your opponent's playing, and you also don't want to waste a D Shifter for like no reason. Odds are most decks are only mainboarding 0 to 1 tactics or talents in the main board. So it's okay to like risk playing into that card just to see what your opponent's playing and like punishing them into making a board. But games 2 and 3, especially against the matchups you keep Shifter against, you want to shotgun Shifter in the draw phase, or when your opponent's going first, because especially most of the Snake Eyes lists are maxing out on talents in the sideboard, so you want to like shotgun Shifter in the draw phase so they have less cards to side in against you that are effective for the most part. This is mostly also this is also the same sideboard. I would side in going second against the voiceless deck too. I would do the same exact thing. This deck is focused on the board breaker aspect. We don't really mess around with hand traps. We're just trying to break our opponent's board as much as possible. Rarely you ever put Ash and Cosmic in. The only time Ash and Cosmic come in, again, like I said earlier, is when you side out against matchups against D-Shifter. So those certain matchups will vary. Like against Kashtira, I'm not going to side in Dark Rulers. Obviously, the Shifters come out. So I apologize. Hold on. Yeah, like obviously take out like Shifter for Ash against that matchup. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Dark Ruler. I meant Ultimate Slayer is a card I'd side out again. I wouldn't side in against that matchup. So I'd probably keep like Terraforming and one copy of like Featherstorming potentially, or it's just side in Cosmics. It just depends, like what kind of Kashtira deck they're playing. But you want to focus mostly on like the board breaking aspects still. So that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any more questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer them when I can. Just going to sign off for now. Thanks for watching.